welcome to Revolution Against Evolution. I'm your host, Doug Sharp.
Your co-host Rich Gear here over on the right side, and we have a guest, we have a host, we all three involved at one time. Sue's back. It's good to see you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back after the long delay of getting back on the show.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but we took a trip about 3 or 4 months ago, back in November, to various parts of the Colorado Plateau, Grand Canyon. We went to the Tuba City tracks. We went to Bryce Canyon, Zion National Park, and Cedar Breaks National Monument as part of that trip. And we're here to today discuss a little bit about Zion National Park, which I think I'd have to say is my favorite of amongst those, although it's spectacular scenery wherever we went.
Well, I agree. The Zion was my favorite part of the trip.
But I tend to like Bryce. I have to admit, I'm a Bryce. It's so artsy, looking. The spires and the things are very. But I do like Zion a lot as well. So yeah.
Well, and also what's nice, I'm going to throw out a little side point. At Zion, I thought it was very family friendly. There are a lot of different things you could do.
Well,
stores, nice places to stay, nice places to eat, and it was all within the same vicinity, which made it nice as a nice family trip.
I'm a visual guy, though. Yeah.
Now, I've been to Zion National Park 3 different times before. And the first time was back in 1973 when Vivian and I, my wife and I, went out to San Diego as part of my excursion into the Navy. And so there was a little bit of a brand new thing for me to be able to visit this part of the country, which I'd never been out there before.
Hey, Doug,
Yeah.
I beat you out there. I got out there in 1969.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I was out there, with my friend Art Hansen way back in the day. We went out west on several western trips and got to Zion and Bryce and Grand Canyon. Yeah. So I didn't realize I'd beat you out there.
Yeah, you did beat me out there, and it was a different experience for Vivian and I. Vivian didn't really take to hiking in the in the desert like I did, but she was game, and she was able to, as a new bride, to be able to take this trip and actually enjoy that with me as we made a new life in San Diego. And so for me, it was a very special thing to see this part of the country, and I just loved it. It was a different experience. We went to Arches National Park, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, and then Bryce and Zion, and visited those 5 different national parks within a couple of days. I think it was 3 days that we stayed through there. So it was a new experience for me. And then we went out in 1999, didn't we, Rich? We were with a group of us, and that was part of a trip that we went through Arches and Canyonlands and.
Yeah, Carol was with us that time, wasn't you? She actually saw mountain sheep at the time, which was at that time was pretty hard to.
Wait.
They weren't that common,
Yeah, she went on the second trip where we
second
went
one?
to.
Okay, I thought she was not on that one.
She wasn't on the one where we went through Zion, so that's unfortunate. But she went to Arches, and that was in the second trip that we took.
Well, also this time when we went, we did encounter the Desert Bighorn as well. In fact, and there were a number of them. It was gorgeous photography.
Yeah, I'd never seen that many of that up close.
And but what I thought was interesting is they had a little visual there, and the last sentence was about they climb steep mountains or steep whatever, and to get away from the predators, the mountain lions. And of course, I'm thinking mountain lions here where we're hiking.
Oh yeah, they're there.
It's like, all right.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a hazard in that area, although there's not very many people who actually get hurt by them. They're a little bit more.
They're a little more bashful. They don't really attack unless they're really hungry and you're really a lone person. They're generally stay away.
Now it was interesting. I have a friend, Al Schwartz, who's a friend of the family for years. was hiking in the canyon, and he encountered one coming up the trail.
Did he really?
Oh, wow.
That must have freaked him out.
Yeah, it did. And it climbed up above him, and so.
Yeah.
But he didn't touch him. So. But that's a little bit of a scary thing, is to encounter a mountain lion. But our visit in November, we first went to the Grand Canyon, and the purpose of it was to talk about the whole geology of the area. It's really something that highlights flood geology.
Yes, in a
And
great
it's
way.
something
Yeah.
that's, in the previous show that we did about the Grand Staircase, it talked about the place near Page and Lee's Ferry, where it really creates a funnel between 3,000 foot cliffs. And so it's a wide part of the canyon, but it's you don't really notice it as much as when you're actually at the cliffs where you were at that Desert View or at the Grand Canyon. And so when we headed towards Bryce from the Grand Canyon, we had just stopped at the Tuba City footprints. So we had quite a nice long drive that day.
Okay, we did.
And it wasn't that, and so you were riding with Matt, and Rich and I were riding together, and so we saw the Vermilion Cliffs and the Chocolate Cliffs, which is the side where the North Rim is.
Right.
And then we went through Jacob Lake, which is sort of like the turnoff where you go to the North Rim. And so it's about 50 miles from Jacob Lake to the North Rim. And so to go to the North Rim of the Grand Canyon is really a project. It's something that you actually have to make arrangements to stay
Most
overnight
people
there.
don't do that. One of these days, maybe we should do that just to see what it is, because we've never really done that. You know, I'd like to do it. Just say we did it. I don't know. Maybe I don't know how, because the spectacular views are on the other side.
Well, there is a creation group that actually is organized to do the raft trip at Lee's Ferry.
Okay.
And then they stay in Page. They do the Antelope Canyon and do a rim tour at the South Rim, and then also go to the North Rim. And so they're based in the Page area. But it was interesting when we went to the Navajo Canyon Bridge. That's where you cross the Colorado River. Right?
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was pretty spectacular.
But that's sort of like a narrow gorge there, where there really isn't like a spectacular canyon.
No, but it's
at that
really
point.
cool though. I mean, that's the bridge you go across? Is that I like that area. Yeah, that was very, very beautiful.
And so when then it was that night when we ended up at Bryce Canyon, and we spent the night there, and then in the morning we did the grand tour of Bryce Canyon, and then we went through Cedar Breaks on the way to Zion, and that's where we had some problems where we got separated and figure out where everybody was, and poor Sue here was frantic a little bit, but
Lost in a place I'd never been before.
but we managed to get past that, and I think you were glad that you were able to get to Zion National Park, because it was really the highlight of our trip, I think.
I think for me it was too, and the altitude was lower. I was a little surprised that I would be starting at what was it, 8,800 feet, and I did not prepare for it by drinking plenty of water, which is an important thing for all visitors to do. I did get to have a taste of altitude sickness, and when you're standing 6 feet away from falling into the canyon, that's not a good idea if you start getting a little wobbly.
It was funny, when I was younger, I never believed that until I remember the Silverton Mine Railroad, and I was feeling really lousy. And they said, drink some water. And I go, what's that going to help you with this? Oh, man, it makes a big difference. Remember?
Oh, yeah, take plenty of water whenever you go to any of these places.
Well, I understand when you're hiking down the canyon, which we've done that a few times. We've hiked down, at least part way down, and it's dry, it's desert, you get dehydrated. But I didn't understand the altitude, that water would help that. I didn't really, it was a non sequitur to me. I didn't really understand, but I'm sold. You know, I don't drink pop, it's water. And that makes you feel good. So I remember drinking it. Doug, remember that? I drank it, I felt like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. Remember when he was fading out? Suddenly I sat up, I go, wow, I'm ready to play Johnny Be Good, you know? I mean, it was really amazing. I snapped right back. So yeah, I'm a big fan of water at high altitudes, absolutely. But so Doug, do we want to talk about Zion? Now we're at Zion, right?
Well, I did want to just talk briefly about Cedar Breaks because
I'm sorry, yeah.
That was at 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
And so that didn't help your altitude sickness. And it was this big, massive amphitheater.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're gazing down into this vast area of, and that's really the top of what we call the Grand Staircase. And you have Bryce being second, and then Zion being third. Now, a little bit about Zion, where it's positioned. It's in Utah. It's between Cedar City, which is where we ended up getting back together and meeting after we came out of earshot of cell phone service and everything.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a little place called Hurricane, and then beyond that is St. George, which is more towards Las Vegas. But there's actually, if you wanted to, we were talking about seeing the Colorado Canyons, which is exit 40 on I-15, which I didn't know at the time. And so we just breezed right on past.
Oh.
And
did you want to see that?
I wanted to see that.
Okay. What's there, Doug?
Well, I guess it's supposed to be pretty spectacular.
Okay.
But all along I-15, that between Cedar City and Hurricane, there's what's called the Hurricane Cliffs. And you have to ascend these cliffs into the Colorado Canyons to get to see that area.
Okay.
And there's some hiking in there, and there's supposed to be a huge arch back in there as well.
Oh, man. I love arches. I love arches.
But there's also a little Colorado Terrace road that goes is between Hurricane and Springdale. Springdale's a nice little place you just described, where all the hotels are, and it's right near the entrance. But there's a road that takes you up into the Colorado Terrace area. And so that's kind of it actually goes all the way to Cedar City, but it's all dirt road.
Oh, so the thing about there out in Utah, you just feel like there's so much eye candy. It's like you feel like the whole state is a national park in some respects because there's so many parks and takes up so much area, but there's so much beauty. And then there's things that I guess this is not a national park, and you go, yeah, but this really looks cool. You know, I mean, there's really a lot of wonderful things that if it was out here in Michigan, it'd be probably a national park. But out there, it's like it's so common to see these geologic formations, these mountains, these cliffs, these valleys, these wonderful structures and things, and they're so different from one park to another, from one area to another. Doug, they're just so different. As I said, I like Bryce. You guys like the Zion, but I like them all. I love the canyon. But everyone has something. Everything has something different to attract you for it. But anyway, so Doug, I was going to ask you, how does this fit in with flood geology?
Well, you have to understand, if you take a look at the geology from the evolutionary standpoint, you read through it and they talk about Jurassic layer and a Permian layer, but they also talk about the canyon being very young. And so that fits in with what we would say.
Yeah, we would say, exactly right.
But we would disagree with the Jurassic and the Permian because that would be something that we can explain with the with the flood geology being laid down all within successive washes of the flood model. And so, that it makes sense in terms of the way that we interpret the geology from a flood viewpoint. Now, you're going to have to read up a little bit about what the creationist explanation for the Colorado Plateau is, because I think that's almost beyond the scope of what we're talking about here.
Right. Yeah, there's limits of the time, but the thing about it's interesting, because we'll use evolutionary terms because people are familiar with them. But it's not that we agree with the time frames and where they come into, but the strata itself and what it's called this or it's called this, whether it's Jurassic, Permian. And I've always loved, because using evolutionary terms, how there's so often, Doug, there's we talked about interbedding, but we also talked about the missing geologic columns. And these are many millions of years old, and there's suddenly you've got a Jurassic and then a Permian. So where did Triassic and well, Permian's after Devonian, so where's the Triassic? It's gone, and that's millions of years. It is suddenly gone, and also I love when you have upside down strata, things that are like younger supposedly from an evolutionary standpoint.
Didn't we see that on our trip in a number of places?
Right. Yeah. Where the geology is sort of.
It's upside down.
Topsy-turvy, if you will.
Topsy-turvy, yeah. But Springdale, of course, we checked in our hotel there, and then we took off into and did a little bit of a trip to the eastern end of the park. And in order to do that, we went through the Zion Tunnel. But when you go to that part of the park, there's all these switchbacks that go up the side of the mountain, and you see the Great Arch standing there before you. And you can see that there's a little bit of area that's right behind that where it's not a full arch, but there's just a little bit, you can see where a whole section of the side of the mountain fell down, and forming this arch. And there's after you get through the tunnel, there's a trail that you can take that goes to the top of that. Now, it was getting pretty late in the day when we hit that, and we did manage to get a parking spot. This is a tough place to park, but we just didn't have time to really go and take advantage of that. And I'd been on that trail before, and it is a kind of a tough trail. It's not all that easy to take that trail, and there's these drop-offs into these slot canyons.
Yeah.
But the biggest feature that I saw on that side of the park is all the crossbedding. And if you look at the literature that you can see on the National Park Service site, it talks about the crossbedding being 7,000 feet of sand dunes that built up gradually over millions of years.
Now, you've talked about crossbedding before, Doug, so for those who haven't seen it, what is crossbedding exactly?
Okay, that's where you, and we'll show this in the pictures here, that the layers go like this, and then it's planed off on the top, and then it goes in the opposite way, planed off on the top, and goes opposite way, and then it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until it builds up this whole area. Now, some of the experiments that creationists have done with using troughs, it shows that the cross-bedding, it is possible for it to be water deposited rather than to be sand dunes. And to imagine, these beds don't stop here in Zion National Park. They go all the way through the Grand Canyon, they go all the way across the vast areas of the United States. And in fact, some of them are all even have pictured rocks in Michigan. The pictured rocks in Michigan are that way.
Are they supposedly the same,
Supposedly same.
era or same?
Yeah, so supposedly the same thing as what it is elsewhere. You know,
Okay.
it's really the Coconino sandstone.
All the way to, oh, okay.
And
That
so-
I didn't realize.
And then
you know?
even Grand Ledge has cross bedding
Okay.
in it. And
Yeah, we've seen that.
So
yeah.
if we look at all these different areas in the world that's like this, and imagine this as being a vast desert, this really doesn't hold. Well, it does hold water because that's how it was laid.
Exactly. So, yeah, in fact, aren't these areas, a lot of these areas, you can actually see this might have been like post-flood runoff, which would create some of the things that happen.
Well, it was probably deposition during the flood.
And during the flood, that would be deposition during the flood. But the
Deposition.
canyons that happened afterward, they would have happened, some of it afterward.
Yeah,
you know?
the carving of the canyons would have been post-flood and possibly even recent after flood.
Possibly, yeah. Some of
And
the
so
stuff, yeah.
I would say that, and there's a lot of erosion that's still going on. There is a fellow who had climbed up to the top of Angel's Landing, and
In Zion.
and he in Zion National Park, and he was taking some video, and he watched as the entire side of the mountain on the opposite side of the Angel's Landing, where Weeping Rock is, just collapsed.
Wow.
And he got video.
You got that
of
on video?
Oh,
He got that
wow.
Is that on the
video.
internet now? Or?
It's on the internet,
Oh, I'd like
so
to
you
see
can
that.
log.
Okay.
Just so if
When did
you,
this happen?
that's just a couple of years ago.
Okay, all right.
So, and then another spot just near where the parking lot is, and where the visitor center used to be, also had a collapse. And so there's a trail that goes along that really shows how that works.
And of course, Doug, this also kind of begs the question: is how long? You know, they basically ascribe hundreds of thousands to millions of years to a lot of these formations, yet they seem to be wearing out a lot
Right.
faster than they would in this time frame. It doesn't
You're
really
observing
get a whole lot.
catastrophes in situ right there in front of you.
Yeah,
And so these are all parts of what we can observe in Zion National Park because they have these massive cliffs.
Oh, yes.
And I love the Virgin River with its riparian biodiversity and all these yellow and different colored trees that was there. It's just amazing. And the Virgin River goes up through the Zion Canyon, and it's got these steep cliffs. They have formations called the Three Patriarchs.
yeah.
They have the Grotto, the Emerald Pools, Angel's Landing, which is a big mountain, and it's there's a little trail going up Angel's Landing called Walter's Wiggles. And it goes back and forth
Yeah.
up to the top, and it's kind of actually a dangerous thing.
Yeah, it's narrow too, I've heard.
Weeping Rock, I remember Weeping Rock when I was going out there with Vivian the first time, and there was a good sized waterfall going over it. And we didn't see that when we were there this time. But there's a massive mountain there called the Great White Throne. And then the bus takes you through there. There's a spot where you can only take the bus. But at the end of that is what they call the Temple of Cinewava. And then the Narrows, where the Virgin River goes through a slot canyon.
Yes. All right. Yeah.
Oh, and it's beautiful there,
Yeah.
and you can even hike across the river if you're dressed appropriately and go for a further hike. And taking the shuttle bus was a great way to see a number of the sites that have been mentioned.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
So-
free and convenient.
Yeah.
for
You got to get the
family.
waders on to go up there farther.
Yeah, if you're going to go hiking in the water, yes, they
But
did
it's-
have waders on.
It was pretty
and-
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't do that.
So it would have been nice, and what I'm saying is that there are evolutionary claims about this area, but they declared Zion itself to be young, this canyon to be young. And the question is, all these layers that go back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, is shaved across the top, flat. And you would tend to think you'd find bioturbation, which is where you have the soils.
Yeah, you should have some soil buildup between the layers. It should be. You should also have indications of, plant activity or soil erosion and buildup. Even little animal stuff or seeds or something. You don't have any of that. It's just, nothing.
Now these layers are pretty vast. They're pretty deep, and to go there and actually view this, it's really an amazing evidence for creation. And we have a couple of people that you interviewed, Sue, that they said that this was a really amazing experience. And so we'll let them talk.
Here we are at the Narrows in Zion National Park, and I've met some people here from Texas. And would you please tell me what your thoughts are about what you've been seeing today?
Okay. We've been enjoying all the beautiful cliffs and the plants and admiring all of God's creation here as we're spending time with our family and just being amazed at the diversity of life.
This place is beautiful. I've been to several national parks, and it's beyond me, anyone to think that something like this just happened.
Thank you very much.
But anyway, we have plenty of good evidence from Zion National Park that it is it is part of the flood of Noah. Something that took place about 4,000 years ago, and
Yep, that's about right. 4,500. About 4,500 years ago.
And Sue, what would you say if someone wanted to visit the Zion National Park? What would you give them advice about?
Well, I would certainly take the shuttle and go to the different sites. Emerald Pools was a nice place to see a variety of water. If it's really hot, you might want to dip yourself under one of the waterfalls. And also, the Narrows is a nice trap to walk, and there are lots of people that were doing it. And there are other places too, and they stop frequently at the shuttle stops. So I would recommend doing that.
And Weeping Rock is another wet place. But it was closed when we were there.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was.
Well,
we gotta wrap it up, Doug.
We'll see you next time on Revolution Against Evolution. We hope you get a chance to enjoy Zion National Park.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about what you've been seeing so far in the Narrows?
I think it is absolutely beautiful and amazing.
Yeah, the highlight of my trip so far has been just driving in and being captivated by the vastness and the beauty of Zion National Park. It's amazing.